Communication, and then Deputy Ambassador Bob, Valentino Wall, and me, I'm the one responsible for communities in North America. So my colleague already stated the position of the government, and there's no point for me to waste time repeating it. So the reason why I will be talking is because there are certain important points I want to make in regard to how we can consolidate peace. As somebody responsible for communities, I wouldn't shy away from sharing my views with you, our friends, the American friends, and our brothers who are experts in conflict resolution who join us, so that we find a way how to consolidate the peace that we sign. Comrade Ambassador Bak and also our Comrade Ladu Gubek and your colleagues, I thank you very much for doing this, because this event is very important and we are doing it after we sign the peace. So the biggest concern now is how do we make the peace that is signed to be implemented on the ground so that it will end the war, because I think the meaning of peace is that it has to silence the fighting, the guns. It is not about signing and politician dancing, it is about if the guns are silent. So I would want to bring to your attention Dr. David Bassoon and the rest of the experts. I want to share with you something very important, because I think it is our aim, all of us, that we want the war, the fighting, the death to stop in South Sudan. We hope that this peace, which was intended to achieve that, should stop the war. But I want to bring to your attention, because I think for the expert of conflict resolution, you know that there is no country whereby you sign peace and then you think that the war will end if there is fighting which is taking place. For example, in Sierra Leone and Liberia, when the peace was signed, then the gun was silent. That's why now there's a peace consolidation in Liberia and Sierra Leone. I know that a lot of people died in this war, but we are the people of South Sudan, we can get out of it. If the Rwandans can live in peace after almost 1 million people died and they are now having economic development, I believe we can also make it. The Liberian did it, the Sierra Leonean did it, we can also do it. But we cannot do it unless we do one thing. And this thing, I think, is supported by facts on the ground, is that for the compromise peace agreement to succeed, we need an immediate South-South dialogue. And the reason I said that is because as soon as the senators arrive in Juba, I would suggest that we need an immediate South-South dialogue that should be sponsored by the Kenyan government, because without that South-South dialogue, the compromise peace agreement will have some difficulties. Let me go back to the history. When the comprehensive peace agreement was signed in 2005, there was a recognition that there were factions in the South that were not party to the negotiation. I think Dr. Bassoon, you have knowledge about that. So the international community came up with an idea that if for the CPA not to collapse, we need to find a way to include people like South Sudan Defense Forces that was led by late Pauline Matip. Pauline Matip, for those of you who don't know the history, because we cannot find a solution to South Sudan problem unless we go back to 1991. When Dr. Machar staged the first coup against Dr. John in 1991, he went through a lot of political trials which are normal, and I don't need to repeat them because we don't have time. But when Dr. Riek Machar and Dr. John signed the Nairobi Declaration in 2002, large of his forces that were original part of his movement left behind in Sudan after he abandoned the Khartoum Peace Agreement, and those people were organized under South Sudan Defense Force by late Pauline Matip. So when we signed the Comprehensive Peace Agreement in 2005, those groups posed a very dangerous threat to the peace itself. So the idea of South-South dialogue came up. And then the first South-South dialogue was done, I believe, in January 2005, before the death of Dr. John. And then it was agreed that it will be continued when Dr. John arrived in Khartoum. Unfortunately, Dr. John passed away and President Key took over, but he did not abandon the idea. So, because you cannot have peace if there are 55 to 60,000 people who are not party to the agreement. Because, of course, if you have no interest in the peace, you will use the gun. Because I think we all agree that most of the wars that are facing us since 1983 in South Sudan are caused by military political elites, not the ordinary people. Of course, we have some problem like cattle rustling, tribal conflicts, but they are not in the scale of the wars caused by political and military elites. So, acknowledging that fact, our president agreed to negotiate with late Pauline Matip, and what is now known in history as Juba Declaration was signed in January 2006. I think you all know, because when Juba Declaration was signed, there was some sort of power sharing, because you cannot expect, two groups coming together unless there is some sort of power sharing, because that is most of the cause of the fighting in Africa. So Pauline Matip became the deputy commander-in-chief. He was given 2 ministerial positions. One was occupied by Gabriel Chanson. I think you know Gabriel Chanson. He was in the government representing the group of Pauline Matip. General Peter Gadeni were part of the South Sudan Defense Force. General Garud Garpot. 90% of the generals with Dr. Riek Machar were taken to the south by late Pauline Matip in 2006, and this is the fact. Now, we signed the Compromise Peace Agreement. 1 week before the signing of the Compromise Peace Agreement by Dr. Riek on August 17, Peter Gadeni, General Garud Garpot, and the other 17 generals made a declaration dismissing Dr. Riek from the movement. That was August 10. I think most of you read that declaration. So now we are faced with a bigger situation. We signed peace, whether the peace was imposed or not. We are not debating this because we accepted it. But the question is, how do we implement it? For instance, if the 3 signatories, the former detainees, the government, the SPLM-IO, start implementing the peace in Juba, while the groups of Peter Gadeni, I think you heard about the violation last week, and now Peter Gadeni made, and his group, they formed South Sudan Armed Forces. They made it very clear that they will fight the signatories. Let's take, for example, General Garud Garpot captured Malek 3 times last year using his own sub-clan of Gadiok. So now, Garud Garpot, because this war was started by 3 generals. It was Peter Gadeni in Bo, Garud Garpot in Malek, and James Kong in Mentiu. If these 3 generals did not rebel, we wouldn't have the civil war today. Riek Machar was running with his wife. But when these 3 generals, Peter Gadeni in Division 8, James Kong in Division 4, Garud Garpot was the political advisor of Governor Simon Kut in Malakal, when they took up arms, that's what we are facing now, trying to solve. So now, out of these 3 generals, only one is with Dr. Riek Machar, that is CDR, James Kong. The rest, they are against it. And they made it clear that they will fight the signatories. So now, I'm talking as part of the government, including the SPLM-IO, because they are not any longer rebels. From today, they are our partners, because we are waiting for them to go to Juba. So we, the government, the SPLM-IO, the former detainees, will find ourselves in Juba in January. But there will be a big force of Peter Gadeni and those of Garud Garpot fighting us. Let's take, for example, if there is no South-South dialogue to include these forces, so that there is no more violence. What about if they capture Malakal? They say because Garud Garpot did it 3 times, he can organize his sub-clan again and capture it. Do you think we in the government would have time to listen to Riek Machar or to implement the peace? That is exactly what happened to Darfur Peace Agreement. I think, Dr. Basili, you know it. When Andrew Nasir, the former envoy of President Bush to Sudan, waved a hammer to Darfur rebels, saying that if you don't sign Darfur Peace Agreement in Abuja, I'm going to smash your head. Only Arco now accepted. The Wahid and No refused. The gem of Dr. Khalil refused. So what happened? Arco now went in and signed the agreement. When in the process of implementation, the other groups continue fighting. So in 2011, Arco now went to Bashir, my friend. You know, there are articles in the agreement which are not implemented. Bashir told him, my brother, we are almost losing Darfur because the gem and the Wahid are capturing 90% of Darfur. So what peace are you talking about exactly? I'm not remembering it. What are you talking about? So where is Arco now? I think he's back in the bush, right? He's now a rebel. So if we are not careful, if there is no South-South dialogue to silence, to address the issues of Peter Gadeni and his group, then the compromise peace agreement may even end up like that for peace agreement, because I don't think that if Malakal is captured by the group of Peter Gadeni, that we will have time in Juba talking about implementing the compromise peace agreement. We will be talking about the new war. We will be talking about, okay, what are we going to do with those guys? Maybe we'll say, okay, well, if we leave Riek Machar as the first vice president, why don't we just gives him the third vice president, because we have two vice presidents, right? But the problem would be, yes, but these are the realities. I'm telling you the political and military realities. The problem would be, if the new group becomes stronger, maybe they will say they need the second vice president or the position of Riek Machar for anything. These are the, I'm telling you the realities. Because I have been in this process, I know all these generals very well. So let's say Riek will resist, and Riek will say, well, you know, I signed peace. We say, okay. What about Waniga? Waniga will say, we the Equatorial will go to Bush. Because for the second time, how would Waniga agree if the Riek Machar is imposed on him for the second time? Then another warlord of Nuer will be imposed on him? No, the Equatorial will take up arms. Okay, maybe we'll have the third vice president, depending on the strength, the military strength of the new group. So these realities, these are the things confronting the South, and the problem with our brothers, especially in the Troika in the West, they don't have patience to read the South Sudan history. Especially, I don't know, maybe, and one day I told one American diplomat in the State Department, I said, you know, the tragedy these days with the United States is because you, the policymakers, you don't want to study the situation. You just want the war to end, because this is the American culture, they want the solution tomorrow. You don't want to do some studies. But if we are going to sign the peace, the compromise peace agreement, we need to have a plan B, which will be, how do we bring back those groups, so that we have to do it very quick before they gain the military strength. And I believe that the Sudan government will support Peter Gadet. He's now in Khartoum in a hotel. I think this is not a secret. And he's getting military support simply because it is the national interest of Sudan, by the way, to support anybody who wants to fight the South. We have a lot of problems with Sudan, border and all anything. So if anything is weakening the South, I believe it is in the interest of Sudan to do it, to support any rebellion. I believe they will do it. They will support Peter Gadet with arms, as long as there is SPLM not, because as my colleague noted, the agreement has something very convoluted provision, saying that the government of South Sudan should disarm the Darfur rebels and the SPLM not. Now Bashir will say, you know, Salva Kiir and his friend Riek Machar failed to disarm my enemies. So what would you do? You would arm Peter Gadet. You would arm those of Garut Gasport, and then we'll go back to square one. If Garut Gasport is threatening the oil field, which is our lifeline, I don't think I would, even myself, if Dr. Riek wants to talk to me in Juba, I will slap him. Because there's no point to listen to him if the oil field are being threatened by the new rebellion. So for those of you who are expert on conflict resolution, I think these are the things that you need to take note of, because those in Washington, they don't have time to read. They are not reading at all, I'm telling you. I have to be honest. And maybe they will forgive me for saying this, because they don't want to know the history of the South. And these are the realities. If you look at the history of the South now, we are back to 2002 and 2004. 2002, because when Riek Machar signed the Nairobi Declaration, most of his generals left behind. And this is what is happening now. 2004, 2005, because we are in the situation that Dr. John was faced with the reality that he has to bring those of SSDF he has to include them into the peace process, otherwise they would pose a very big threat to implementation of a comprehensive peace agreement. These are the realities. But one of the problems, as my colleague already mentioned, is that when you have a peace which is imposed using hammer, you know, because even Dr. Riek mentioned it, I think for VOA, you people got it, that the peace was imposed because somebody was using a hammer, waving it that, look, my friend, if you don't sign it, I'm going to smash your head. So Riek had to sign it without reading. And I believe Dr. Riek did not read the agreement, all the provisions, because there are some provisions which are not good for him. You see? But he had no choice, because if he didn't sign it, somebody is using a hammer. The same thing to President Kiir. But now we are being faced with the reality. If you go to our friend Donald Booth and tell him, okay, what are we going to do with Peter Gadet? Who is this Peter Gadet? He doesn't know who is Peter Gadet. But I don't need to tell South Sudan who is Peter Gadet, because when he expresses himself on the ground, then the entire Great Upper will still, to me, I know the war will not stop, because if you don't bring those new generals to the peace, politicians will be enjoying Juba for time being, but most of the Great Upper the war will continue. So, for you, the conflict resolution expert who will talk tomorrow, I think this is one of the things that you need to go through it thinking now. Yes.
Why? What is South Sudanese problem? A few years ago, when we were fighting the North, the Arabs were asking Junubin Aizin Shino, what do South Sudanese want? We got our independence. Today, we are fighting ourselves again. So the question is, what do we really want? What is South Sudan's problem? Why is the bloodshed? Why are the kids dying? Why are the mothers still dying? Why are the elders and the vulnerable still suffering? This is a brotherly session, and as a moderator, I will give the panels a few minutes to introduce themselves in 2 minutes, and I'm very strict with my time. If you go over 2 minutes, I will stop you, and then I will come back in the next session so that you tell me exactly why are you the SPLM IO. Why are you who you call yourself you are? How can we bring peace to South Sudan? How can we stop the suffering? I will break down the 10 minutes first. The first 2 minutes is just an introduction, and then I will wrap up the second round so that we don't go into boring 10 minutes of one person. There will be a session for questions. Some of the questions that we'll be asking, and some has been addressed by our ambassador, Bob Wall, was the agreement that the party signed in Arusha over the word SPLM. Arusha agreement is between the SPLM RG, the SPLM IO, and the SPLM FD. Are we one, or are we different? Yes, the pie has been given to us. Each person has been given a piece of pie. Riek got a piece. Our president got a piece, and the FD got a piece of pie. What does an average South Sudanese have? Why are they still dying? With that, I will turn the microphone to Ambassador Buay to introduce himself in 2 minutes, and we'll go into, I think I'll just continue the line. Thank you.
I think my introduction will be in 30 seconds because I'm Ambassador Buay representing South Sudan Embassy.
My name is Ladu Rodoka and I represent GRECO USA. GRECO stands for Greater Equatorial Council of Rights.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chino Deng. I'm a member of the SPLM. I don't know whether you give us some letters behind there, but I'm SPLM, that government now running the country. I'm from Minnesota here. Welcome to everybody to Minnesota.
My name is Gonda Timothy. I'm the chairperson of the SPLM Island in the state of Minnesota. Former member of the SPLM, we were all together. I was confused that we're about to answer it. I think we are having an interesting discussion today. So I will explain more later, but at this point, I'm representative of the SPLM Island. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Agnes Mapapita. I'm a senior level. And this is here in the USA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I will start. that, I will start with Comrade Nyoga, and I'll give you 8 minutes to tell us about the SPLM-IO, the position that you present, what you stand for, how can we stop peace? Thank you.
Thank you very much. In the Constitution of South Sudan, Article 16 says that you give women affirmative action. I thought that when I sit among these elephants here in front of me, I thought that would bring a woman from the SPLM government, so that when I talk, she also talks. And I feel that will pass the message. So next time, don't put me around here. Thank you very much. It's really very difficult to tell you about what is SPLM-IO and who am I. I'm just a member. I'm not carrying any title within the SPLM in opposition, but I'm a senior member in SPLM in opposition. And also to talk about the SPLM in opposition, I'm not supposed to say anything about it, because in the program, I'm here to speak about the women's voice. But now you just pick me from there and then bring me here to sit here and to talk about the SPLM-IO. In the leadership, I have my boss who is next to me here. So if he allows me to speak, then I'll also speak. So I don't want just to jump in and then start talking about the political issues, because I am a member, but I'm not authorized to talk about the SPLM in opposition. The other thing which I would like to put forward here is that I like the idea when our ambassador was talking, Ambassador Gordon, and you mentioned we should not go to the past, because we are here because of peace and reconciliation. We are here because of peace and reconciliation. We are not here because I'm from IO. I am from Equatoria. Equatoria did not carry a gun to go and kill anybody there in South Sudan. And I'm proud to say that this, with all the respect from the ambassador, but he mentioned that their Dinkas are 3.5 million, and the Nuer are 3 million. You are the majority. You are the majority. We are not here to read history or to learn history. We are here to say the truth. And what next? What are we going to say? Are we going to carry the message of peace? Are we going to reconcile? Some of you, you don't even greet each other. Look at the message we are giving here. And I'm happy with what you were reading, the guidelines. And look how we enter in and also bring in some things which want to bring our hearts so that we hate each other. We are not here for that. We are here for peace and reconciliation. In conflict transformation, there are so many words. There's facilitation, mediation, acceptance, avoid. All let us use those words. I am a member of, I'm representing women in the IGAD peace process. Within the women coming from the side of diaspora, because I come from Nairobi. So with our own organization of South Sudanese Women Christian Mission for Peace, we had a seat there in the IGAD to make sure that we see that we have all issues being put in place. I participated in the CPA. I am a senior rebel, let me tell you why I call myself senior rebel, because I started during the SPLM. Today, this name SPLM in opposition it was given to us in Addis Ababa. Because now, we still call ourselves that we are SPLM, SPLA. And I'm proud of that. Because we are the same. That's why you see that this word of being together is there. That's why you see that there's detainees. Why not they say that we are a group of detainees? Why do they bring this SPLM to be there? Why do they not call them we are for change? Democracy for change. But still they bring the word SPLM, they want to fix it. So that means that we are always together. We have that fear that we don't want to go away, we just want to stick to each other. And that's why you see that we want to stick to each other. In Iga, Simbeyo told us that you are not rebels. You know, it's very difficult to put the word rebel. Sometimes you want to use a good word in conflict to transformation. We said these are armed group. We don't want to call them militias. We don't want to call them rebels. There are some words which will make you, as a human being, you don't feel happy. But now they want to call us, in case, just to divide us so that when we talk here, we are all SPLM, we are SPLM. And that's why you see that in the SPLM in opposition, our people participated in Tanzania because we all want to be one. At the end of the day, as I'm talking to you in this house, tomorrow you'll find that we are all the one. We are all one in Juba. We are going to Juba on the 15th. We are going to Juba on the 15th. When we are going to Juba, still we are going to sit there as SPLA. I am a member of National Liberation Council. I went to the SPLA the first time in 1986, when I was still a young girl. But today I'm now a grandmother here, within following politics of South Sudan. I always say that when the two elephants fight, these are the 3 million and the 3.5 million. When they fight, the grass is the one suffering. And the grass are the women, the children, the civil society, the civilians within South Sudan. Who is talking about these people? Who is talking about these people? You want to reconcile us now? I don't give a damn. If Dr. Aliak Machar, who is my chairman, sits there, I tell him that you have killed. I cannot go and stand there and say, Salva Kiir, Oye, you did not kill, you did not kill. I tell Aliak Machar that you have killed. And you have to be responsible, you have to answer some of the questions. So it's not easy that when we come here, we sit here and we say, okay, we need peace and reconciliation, peace and reconciliation, peace and reconciliation. Have you started it in your heart? Have you started it in your heart? Today, I was hungry. You know, I'm a rebel. I want to eat. Ambassador was coming there and said, Ambassador, I want to eat. I'm hungry. Take me down there, feed me. This is how peace is. It's not that when I've eaten that man of ambassador, I'm now with the government. That is what I eat that money because I belong to South Sudan. That is our money. Our money. So I was telling them with Pastor Yamba and Chairman Ladu. I said, in New York, when Dr. Aliak said, you have to come with me. The vice president said he wants to meet us in New York. So we went. And we were sitting together like this, talking to each other. First of the thing, my vice president, Waniga, was remembering me because he knows what I was doing in the parliament. Then he started with those stories. And then we hugged each other. And Dr. Aliak also. Then we started discussing issues, we started talking, we are going, we'll be coming, you will welcome us. And this is what we call peace. But some of you think that if they are in the SPLM IO and they are in SPLM in opposition, they don't want to give. If you don't start now, don't go back to Juba. If you don't start in this room to talk to each other, listen to each other, don't go back to Juba. Because if you go to Juba, you're going to make it worse. And the high hope is for you people of the diaspora here in America. You have what you use, internet. The words you put in the internet, you put against the government, you put against the SPLM IO. And then you don't sign your name. If you are a man, if you are a woman, write that man, I'm Agnes Nyoka. Then I'm insulting the government, I'm insulting IO. Why do you hide your name? If you are a peacemaker. These are the issues that we need to look at it. I have to tell you my heart, I was not happy when Ambassador Gordon was talking. With the guy that you gave us, he was not supposed to say that. And I expected him to say, no, stop. Don't mention names. Don't mention Kida. Why do you go to those stories? Because if we count the stories, my dear, I will not sit here. My dear, I will not eat with a dinka. In my culture, if you eat with a dinka, if you eat with somebody who shot you, who killed you, you become what? Jengeli. These fingers all Yoruba. Lepers.
Thank you. I will give you one extra minute to wrap up your conclusion.
This is what I want to tell you. Peace is a process. But let it be a truth in our hearts. I have the example of South Africa. Some of you have not traveled. We have been in the SPLM and we are looking for peace. We were opening our books like this. Where do we get peace? Where do we get peace? Where do we get peace? Where do we get starting in the CPA? We're in Machakos, Nanyuki, Kare, Naivasha. Until today. I cannot be in any government, a minister or a secretary or a commission because of my mouth. I always talk the truth. You give me this water, I say this is water. You give me this, I say it's a paper. So if you want peace, I keep on praying in my heart because my state is now in war. Wandruba is dying. People are being killed in Wandruba. People are being killed in Kejikeji. People are being killed in Yei, in Juba. This is my state. Now today in this room we are talking about peace. I always cry. If in the evening if I pray, I say, how do I forgive? How do I forgive this government? How do I bring this government to my heart? Now I'm going back to Juba. How do I forgive the government? How do I sit there with the Dinka? How do I sit with the Buay? How do I sit with the Equatorial? Am I going to use the bad words? Can I forgive and forget? Or I forgive and I still say that I will not forget? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me introduce one point that I'll be doing. When you are close to the meeting, I'll be hitting the microphone. That means you have 1 minute left. I will improve as I go, continuous improvement. That's what I do.
Can you also stick to the point? Sorry.
Thank you. Next, gentleman, please.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, all the audience who are here today. The question is very interesting. Go back to the stories. I really don't want to drag you on board too hard, but I wanted to highlight a little points of those that are related to the questions. The conflicts within the Southerners political arena happens in various areas when we're struggling in the bush. It never been the SPLM problem. It has been an issue of decisions that is made. Some people wanted to hold it, then the others will say no. Either we vote it or agree somehow, otherwise we're not going to go. Then it caused war. And it always happened in these two majority tribes, in Nuer and Dinka, all my brothers. Have a long histories of their homes. We go back to the stories that they fight and they know how to handle the problems. But now we are into a civilized world politics where we mixing it with our culture and make it harder to fuse the whole world while we are fighting. Because we are using the mechanism of the world, but at the same time there's underneath politics, which is cultural values that I cannot be defeated by my cousin or by my brother. So if you know those, this is the reason I would consider that is the main problem why the SPLM is so sweet. We don't want to leave it to each other, to any one of ourselves. Let me give an example. I don't know about America, but in Africa or in Sudan, you are named after your father, and then among the children there's one child over there that say, he called his father always my father. There are lots of the children right there. As time goes, I think the other children were concerned, why are you calling him my father? What about us? So I'll give that example because there are people who take something seriously and it's belong to them, while the other people share it. So the SPLM has belonged to all of us after we fight for it for 20 some years. Then there are people within the SPLM who call themselves SPLM mother or the SPLM originals. What about the rest of the people who fought with you, the comrade who was in the field with you? When it comes to decision making and you say you owned it, then the other person will tell it. And I think that has been a dragging problem since we were in the bush, because some people think they own the SPLM. And that's why I say, if you have a father, you are calling that father, and one child is always saying, he's my own father, then the other child will fight. Until you compromise, you realize that the father belongs to all of you. So we all own the SPLM. Let's find a way to realize that we are comrades. We brought the SPLM to exist, we brought this country through the SPLM, which we all formed. I think that is the reason why we don't leave the SPLM, because the founder of the country, and the names that we carry on from the bush, and everybody's father or grandfather died for that name, so we cannot leave it to anybody. Simple as that. Other parts is South Sudan is a young nation, as somebody said earlier. 98% of the income comes from the government. The job we find is with the government. There is no private sector, there is no organizations or any other source of incomes that distract people from the government so that they can focus on the government. So if the income is from the government, some people don't want to run it. So those who will not get nothing will fight to get their share. Simple as that. So I think also we have to realize that the compromise peace that we signed in Addis Ababa had a lot of meanings. That's why it's called compromise. We are brothers. We are the comrades who brought their country together, and our incomes then are 98% shall not be owned by anybody. I don't want to go further. If there's any other question there, then I can answer first. I might have another opportunity later because tomorrow I'll not be here. I'm working. I will make sure that some of our executives from the SPLM will be here, and also the other people who have not heard from our side, we want them to be here because we are for peace. We don't want to differentiate ourselves. Because in this room here, can you actually identify who's IO, who is the SPLM government? No. We are actually Southerners. And when we are in this room, we need to find a way to leave this ugly face behind us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy. I will move the microphone to a gentleman that represents Greco to follow the stream that I gave the two SPLM IO to speak back to back. I'll do the same thing for the SPLM IG. Thank you.
Good evening. I think the frustration has been expressed that people do not want to listen to history, but you won't be able to move forward unless you understand where you came from. And you won't be able to reconcile unless you realize what the problem is and be able to tackle them. Whether it's easy or hard, that is the reality of moving towards peace. My observation, and I think those consumers of Southern Sudanese politics will also agree that the elites or the politicians in Southern Sudan operate under the mindset of two events that happened in Southern Sudan history, recent history. One is 1983, and I'm not referring to the revolt that brought about the SPLM, because in my opinion, SPLM has been a curse for Southern Sudan. But I'm referring to the Kokora that happened then. And the event that brought about the Kokora is the Addis Ababa Agreement. When the Addis Ababa Agreement was brought forward, for the first time, the Southern Sudanese were able to have a common union called the Southern Sudan, with the government called the High Executive Body, led by the president that is appointed by the president of Sudan.
What is Kokora?
Then-
Translate it so that others can understand. Kokora.
So that agreement also installed the Southern Command, which is 6,000 soldiers from the Anyanya 1, and then 6,000 soldiers from Sudan government. And that has to be based in Juba. Those arrangements were made to be able to ensure that the Southerners feel secure enough that Khartoum is not going to come and repeat the mistakes that were done that brought about the rebellion. Nimeri, on the other hand, when he was pursuing the peace, persuaded by Abiy Ahmed, he was not doing it on the interest of the Southern Sudanese people, but rather to fulfill his own needs, because of the fact that the communists at the time has already revolted or has tried to overthrow Nimeri. And so the communists are no longer in the government. Of course, he was purging them, but he was using the Southerners to be able to retain power in Khartoum. And when the Southerners are no longer needed, then they are spit out. The way they were spit out is pitching Abiy Ahmed against Joseph Lago. And when Abiy Ahmed took the post of the High Executive Council in Southern Sudan in 73, it lasted until 78. And then at that time, he installed Joseph Lago to take over. Joseph Lago lasted for 2 years. He brought back Abiy Ahmed. All this is played because when Nimeri wanted to dismantle the agreement one piece at a time, either Abiy Ahmed would say no, or Joseph Lago would say no. Whoever say no first will be kicked out, and the next one will be brought in. In the process, the Southerners were not able to stand up above politics to build a unity of Southern Sudan, so that the Southerners see themselves as a one person rather than a regional, individual, ethnic groups. They play into the hands of Nimeri so that they will be misused and abused, and at the end the losers are the Southern Sudanese people, not the politicians. The politicians will always get paid, but it's the Southern Sudanese child that is walking barefoot, that is not drinking a clean water, that is not going to school, that is getting married at the age of 10, because the services that are supposed to be delivered in place to ensure a successful future are not there. The politicians will use tribal identity to be able to maintain their power for their own benefits. Those are the issues that brought about the Kokora, but at the same time also brought about the split of 1991. Whether I want to talk about it or not, those are the reality of our politics. Those are the reality of our history. The events that happened in December of 2013, if you read the Abasanjo report, it stated that there are fresh memory from 1991. People in the government still resent the Nuer because very much have rebelled against Jongara. Those are tribalism. You like to accept it or not, it exists in Southern Sudan. And that's the prism of how those politicians function in Southern Sudan. They would like to use the slogan, one nation, one people. Southern Sudan is not a nation. for all intents and purposes, Southern Sudan is not a nation. Southern Sudan is a state. Southern Sudan is a country, yes, but it's not a nation. It's going to take a work. It's going to take every single one of those politicians changing their mindset from feeding their own pockets to feeding the Southern Sudanese people, then we will get the nationhood. Otherwise, those slogans have no meaning. Now, if you use history against individual ethnic group who were either mistreated or who has not taken their share in the government, like my colleague has mentioned, the employment in Southern Sudan is a government base. So if it's a government base, and then you have the Dinka in the government, and they take over 75% of the positions in the government, what do you think an Equatorian would think if that is the set of employment and you are raising your children while my children are going hungry every night? What am I supposed to do? What options do I have? And that can apply to a Shuluk or any other group in Southern Sudan. The reality is, we, whether I'm referring to the people who get paid up here doing what they do, or people who does not get paid, the reality is we are not living up to the expectation of the Southern Sudanese people. The politicians are the problem, not the Southern Sudanese people. The Southern Sudanese people has always lose every single time on those events that are happening in history. And the politicians will always walk away with their homes in Nairobi, London, Washington, and there are a lot of those in Juba. How can you go to the bush for 20 years and then you come out and work for 5 years and able to buy a house with a cash in Denver, Colorado? I've been 21 years in the United States. My house is not paid off. 21 years in the United States, my house is not paid off. Somebody spent 20 years in the bush, came and owned a house in Denver, Colorado, owned in Washington, D.C., in Australia. Believe me, sign me up. I would like to take that job because I know I will retire as a wealthy person. But is that the duty of a politician? Do we take the job to feed our own pockets rather than feed the hungry? Or have a vision for the nation so that we will be able to move it forward for the next generation that is to come? Those numbers are disputed with the due respect to the ambassador. There's no study out there that was based on ethnic group to tell me how many Dinkas are there, how many Kojulu are there, how many Zande are there, or how many Shuluk are there. There's no study. If it was done during a Nimeri time, and for any of you who went to school, which study will be cited? How old is that study to be cited so that it will be seen as a factual? Anything that is 40 years old, not 40, 10 years old, nobody will cite it. Because if you cited it, it's irrelevant. So by throwing a number out there that has no backing, that has no political stability on it, is an abuse of authority that justify actions that were taken to mistreat other people. I go to Juba and I see in 2011, when I went to Juba and I came back in 2012, Juba is not the Juba that I know prior to living in Southern Sudan. I have a friend whose citizenship was questioned because he does not look like a Southern Sudanese. How do you define a Southern Sudanese? Do I have to have a sign somewhere to identify me that I'm a Southern Sudanese?
Thank you, gentlemen. Your time is up.
I thought you have to ring that thing to tell me that it's 1 minute. I was following the rules.
I already rang it, but I think you were busy talking. I need you did not hear it. All right. I did. I will yield the microphone to Tina Deng.
Thank you, moderator, and advisor to Chairman Larry Rumber. That is my job in SPLM, National Secretariat here. And I've been a chief member of the SPLM for the last 20 years in the US. SPLM, Justin was asking why is it sweet, why everybody wants to stick with SPLM. Simply, the SPLM is a people movement and it's a people party. That is the goodness of the SPLM. SPLM defined us, SPLM brought us who we are today. That's why everybody, even you are angry and you want to leave, you don't want to leave SPLM behind you, so you want to come and have SPLM name. As Comrade Randall mentioned it, we love SPLM because that's where we used to be. Before the peace agreement or before South Sudan became independent, almost South Sudanese were SPLM members, all of us. And the only organization that used to unite us here in diaspora was the SPLM. That is our community. That is the fact. That's why now, after we become the country, people become elected, SPLM is not a liberation movement anymore. People decided to follow their life. However, through the history, the SPLM have gone through many things, and all of us were aware of it. Even this crisis that we are facing today are not new to the SPLM. SPLM have endured all this. In 1983, when the SPLM started, we went through difficulties. It was just up and down, and we managed it until we emerge again, and we go along and we pursue the liberation principles. And then 1991, we become SPLM again, have a problem within itself, and then it happened. And we mentioned, Mr. Gordon mentioned it before earlier, 2002, we come back again and we emerge, we move forward. 2004, there was the only disagreement within SPLM that there were no any single bullet that was fired. There was a disagreement between the current president, Salva Kiir, and late Dr. John. They disagreed, and there was a lot of tension, and they solved it peacefully. Nobody was shot, nobody slammed nobody. It was just peaceful talk. Of which this is how we're supposed to address our issues. And then come 2013, the current event that we are facing. All these are the SPLM headings. And SPLM has survived all these difficulties and always emerged very strong. And I believe strongly that we are going to emerge very soon. A lot of people, international community, and a lot of players try to come in within the SPLM issues. But the solution is not with them. The solution is within our South Sudanese people. That we are, one day or very soon, we are going to emerge an SPLM again, and we call ourselves a comrade. SPLM leadership in Juba, regardless of what a lot of people talking about, but single thing that nobody will throw it away is that the President Salva Kiir is a peaceful man. And he has brought us into this level because he's a patient person, he's a leader, he's a forgiving person, and all that stuff. All of us, I'm sure nobody will dispute it. And that's why all of us, sometimes we don't want to run away from the SPLM because everybody will just decide tomorrow and name himself SPLM something, knowing that Salva Kiir will forgive him tomorrow. Then he will come back to the SPLM. And you will be accommodated. Not that you can be rewarded too. Even you kill people. That is the SPLM. That is the Salva Kiir leadership that we talk about sometimes. And it is bad when we don't consider that, what kind of person that is leading us and what he does to us. We always try to forget that. Right now, SPLM has the responsibilities from previous years. SPLM is a governing government, party now. The responsibilities are so huge. They are not like before, when we were in Bush. When we were in Bush, Dr. John used to jog a lot because you can sit under your tree and you decide that you throw away your gun and then you operate there and nobody will question you. Now all of us now we are in cities and we are operating as a government. Now an honorable Nyokam mentioned she's going to go back. She was in a government and she's going back to Juba as a leader. And she's going to play her role regardless of what happened. Because these are the challenges that we need to go through, and history have taught us that all these countries, including the US, they have gone through this. And therefore, we will overcome as people of South Sudan. On personal note, and this is what I used to tell South Sudanese all the time, the problem is when issues like this happen, disagreement happen within the political parties, and then we citizens, we forget our role always. Because we politicize, we make politics with the tribal thinking. This is a big problem because now we are trying to sit together, talk together again because Victoria and Salva Kiir, they have agreed to talk together. Therefore, we have to talk together. And we forget our role, that we have a role to play as citizens. The country cannot be built by individuals. It is us, citizens, who have the power. And we're supposed to talk. And I commend the leadership of the SPLM USA Secretariat under the leadership for doing this, because when we live here, I'm sure things are going to change. I will start again talking with Comrade Timothy like we used to do. By the way, he's my in-law.
Right.
And he's IO now, and I'm but actually we talk always. We never disconnect ourselves. But when people talk, I like the way Honorable Nyoka put it. We open books and we talk about peace. What is peace? Where is peace? Where is peace? Sometimes I accuse South Sudanese to be hypocrites because peace, if you don't have peace with yourself, you don't need to talk about peace. It takes you personally to have peace within yourself, to love yourself before you go and love somebody else. And that's why simply we can be taken away by politicians. Because we never have that principle that I, Santino, have my own role as a citizen of South Sudan to play. And so that is actually what President Salva Kiir always telling us. Is that regardless, nobody perfect, no leadership perfect. Even Yamachar or whoever or Pagana will become a president, there will be shortcomings. That will be a difficulty. And are we going to rebel all the time when there is a problem? Things are going to be different now, comrades, because we are a nation. Even my brother, he's going to deny that we are not a nation, but we are a nation. And this is sometimes things we need to talk ourselves. If you are frustrated with the situation, you don't need to deny the big things. International community recognize South Sudan as a country. And now you want to undermine yourself, that you are not a nation. No, we are a nation. And we will go up and down like this, and later on we are going to stand by our feet. That is the truth. Sometimes when we talk about the history of South Sudan, I believe he's younger than me. When he was talking, I was just listening and trying to catch up what he's talking about. Because during the conference he was talking, I was in high school already. I know everything. You see, and I know what happened. You see, it is a politics. It is not tribal. Because South Sudanese, by nature, even you find them like now, today we are here. Now if somebody come out from outside there and tell him, in an American person, and tell him from there, hey, those who are sitting in this room are South Sudanese that are killing themselves. It's all this group combined that here. They will not believe, because when they hear from news, when they find from social media, and what we do here, there's not much. Right.
Thank you very much, Comrade Deng. Time is up. I will move to Ambassador Buay. Gordon Buay.
I think the question is why people are killing themselves because of SPLM. That's the question, right?
I think so.
Very good. You see, we are talking about in the area of power politics, because when we talk about party, then we're talking about power politics, if I understand correctly. SPLM, why people are killing themselves because of the SPLM? Well, we have to reframe the question. People are not killing themselves because of the name, but people are killing themselves because of power, the power struggle. In politics, there are rules for the game. If you want the leadership of the party, you can run in the primary, like what those of Donald Trump are doing. So if you are defeated, then you have one option. Either you accept the result, or you form your party. Like what Donald Trump said, that if he's treated well, he will not leave the Republican Party, but if he's treated bad, then he can run as a third party. So in politics, you have to follow these rules. So in the party, because I don't want to talk about the government, because we're talking about SPLM. In 2013, because SPLM became a party after we signed the agreement in 2005, became a party. Before that, it was a rebel movement. So we cannot talk about the rebel movement, because if we go back to the 90s, then we'll be talking about the military issues. We're not going back to 1991. Because what happened in 91, when they staged the coup, I was in Nasser, which was the Red Army. It was a military coup, because by then there was no party politics. So we are talking about the SPLM after the interim period. Then when we came in, after signing the comprehensive peace agreement, then SPLM became a party, one of the parties in Sudan. When you disagree with the leadership, or let's say if you are defeated in the primary, you have an option of either accepting the result or forming your party. That is exactly what Dr. Lamarck did in 2009. When he realized that the SPLM leadership was mistreating him, what he did is form his own SPLM and call it the SPLM for Democratic Change, which is democratic, because once you are defeated with the party, you don't want to take up arms to shoot people. I think that is not legal, right? Because we are trying to build institutions, we are trying to create a state. Because even in the United States, if you believe in taking up arms because you are defeated in Democratic primary or Republican primary, I believe the FBI or the American Marine will deal with you, right? Because that is illegal. Now, what happened in 2013 is that there was SPLM National Liberation Council process, in which Comrade Riak went to the council. The issue was that people were debating the party, because there are issues that brought problems to the SPLM. It was the issue that if the SPLM members go to convention, what mode of election would they use? Would it be a secret ballot, or would it be show of hands? The majority, then these things, plus the SPLM constitution, these things were postponed to December 14 and 15, so that the constitution and these issues to be resolved. So on the 14th of December, that is one day before the fighting, out of 180 delegates, Dr. Riek got only 12. Then democratically he lost. So when he lost, and then in the evening, he and his group, those of Tabande and Guy, Larugora, they decided to withdraw from the party process. That is your right. If you want to withdraw, it's up to you. Then what happened? In the next day, when the party documents were passed, and then some of his loyalists in the army came and shoot during the speech, when President Salva was giving his speech. I think it was around 4 p.m. So at 10 p.m., the fighting started by Peter Limbo, who is, of course, he was his bodyguard and his loyalists. And then we had a war. Now, I don't want to talk about the war because I have to confine myself to party politics. If people, if I'm defeated in a free and fair election of the party, and then I decide that I have to take up arms in order to be included, can we call it democratic? Is it inclusiveness? Or is it criminality? Or is it what? Because I already lost. The only option I have within the party is to form my own party, like what Dr. Lamakol did. You see? So what some of my brothers who talked before from SPLM, I'm not targeting them or anything. I'm trying for us to have an intellectual dialogue, some sort of understanding. So we have to follow the rules. Even the political party, the SPLM has rules. Okay? It has a constitution. It is not a national constitution, but it's the party constitution which is guiding the members. If you don't follow those rules, and you ended up shooting people, so then you come back to the party, I don't think you can call it marginalization. Nobody dismissed Riek Machar. Riek Machar was removed from the government on July 22, 2013. He was not removed from the party, and I believe if I'm wrong, people can correct me, including my sister and my brother from SPLM-IO. Nobody removed Riek Machar from SPLM. Riek Machar withdrew from a party process, the SPLM National Liberation Council process, when he realized that he lost the democratic process. So the other thing I want to bring to your attention, because in answering the questions of our brothers on the panel, when talk about other things which are not related to the question, for example, the issue that there are Equatorians who are marginalized. I think, let us be honest here, Equatoria is a geographical name, it's not a tribe. I believe a region called Equatoria are 32 tribes. If I'm wrong, maybe Dr. Basuni, you can correct me. 32 tribes. They are the ones representing the region called Equatoria. So you cannot generalize that Equatoria is as if it is a tribe. Let's go to the government, because when you talk, you have to have some facts, statistics to support what you are saying. Otherwise, it will not be intellectual to make an allegation. Go to the ministry, go to Juba. You will find a ministry where it is dominated even by one tribe of Equatoria. For example, the Ministry of Gender. 60% of employees are from Kuku. Because the first minister who established the ministry was a Kuku and employed Kuku. Did the Dinka complain? There are Nuer and Dinka who are in that ministry, there are 16. There are 16. The rest are Kuku, even the rest of the tribe of Equatoria are not there. So this problem is not something that you can associate to the bigger tribes. It is a phenomenon which took place when the government was formed. You will find Wanika with Bari. Okay, even the Zambia are not there. You will find Makana in his ministry, there are Zambi or people from Western Equatoria. Is that a problem of a Dinka? No. It is the system of our, I can say maybe guerrilla politicians, if you want to call it that way, if you think that these people are not civilized politicians, and you call them guerrilla politicians because they were general who came from the bush, okay, you can call them that way. But this is what they practice irrespective of tribe, including the Equatorians. So the other question I want to answer my brother from the Nuer, from SPLM, who is the Nuer like me, is the issue that the Nuer were marginalized. I don't think the Nuer were marginalized. I think the facts will speak for themselves. Unless somebody is saying that when Riek Machar is not in the government, then the Nuer are marginalized. Even before Riek Machar was removed, I think this is what happened. Because it seemed that there is only one Nuer in South Sudan, which is Riek Machar. Even before Riek Machar was removed, 75% of the SPLM was Nuer. There were 8 Nuer ministers, including the Minister of Defense, even the Director of National Security, the Nuer. Everything was Nuer. When Riek Machar was removed, the speaker is a Nuer. We have 6 ministers now. The 3 governors of Greater Papanaj region, before the war, they were Nuer. So where is the Nuer marginalization? Unless somebody is saying that when Tabande is not a governor, and Riek Machar is not a vice president, then the Nuer are marginalized and they have to go back to war. This is where, as a Nuer, I disagreed. As a Nuer, we remain in the government, we say, no, this is nonsense. This is chaotic. This is not a civilized way of building a country or institutions. Because if somebody has to shoot himself back to the government by shooting, then you come back to the government. This is not the way for us to build a nation. We need to follow the rules of the constitution and the civilized way of addressing your grievances through political process. Otherwise, you can go to the court. If Riek Machar had any grievances, he should have gone to the court and make a case that, oh, you know, it was wrong for me to be removed from the cabinet. There was no point for you to take up arms and then you shoot yourself back to the system. I think this does not make sense from my understanding. For what I want to say, because we have no time, is that if my brother, Dr. Riek Machar, listened, or if he imitated Dr. Lamakol by forming his own SPLM, that would be fine. And I'm going back to my brother here. You said that as you are still part of the SPLM, which means that you accept the Arusha Agreement, right? Our brothers and sisters from SPLM, from IO. Arusha Agreement was signed this year. All of you know that. I think it's February or March, in which the Arusha Agreement, Article 2 says that the chairman of the SPLM is Self-Care Mayadit, and then followed by Rek and followed by Wani. So now, for my brothers from IO recognizing the Arusha Agreement, and they will be going to Juba. Now, if there is another convention whereby Dr. Riek Machar will run and he will lose, are we going back to war? Because I want to know this. Otherwise, let us be honest. If you don't want us to go back to 2013, which was the cause of the problem, the internal SPLM problem, why don't you register your own political party and call it SPLM-IO? It's democratic. I don't think there's anything wrong to call a party SPLM in opposition. And then Riek Machar will be the chairman, and then you create your own system. And then you compete in a general election. But if you accept the Arusha Agreement, and I believe my brother read the Arusha Agreement, if you accept the Arusha Agreement, then you also accept Salva Kiir to be your chairman. And if you accept Salva Kiir to be your chairman, then you have to call him, you will start from now, call him Salva Kiir your chairman. Starting from now, because that's the agreement you signed, right? From now, use the people of SPLM-IO, you must refer to Comrade Salva Kiir as your chairman, and don't say anything negative against you, because that would be violation of Arusha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Buay. I think you nailed it to the last second. With this, I will explore some questions from the audience. I will take a few questions. And due to that, can you help me please with microphone? I would like to see the first question. In this one, since I have a lady that complained, I will give the first opportunity to a lady. Yes.
Do we have any wireless mic?
You can walk down, that'll be fine. And this session is only limited to questions, no comment.
Can we hear too?
Yeah, somebody more talk.
Yes, go ahead.
It's a question and clarification at the same
Can you
time.
come with back to people?
It is a mix of the question and clarification at the same time. We gather here to talk about peace and reconciliation. And as Dr. Oblori mentioned earlier, that we have to follow the guidelines, respect and not to use calling names, or you should call someone by their name. And not only the people who were talking here about their frustration or how they feel, but there is one thing I want to mention. Nuer and Dinka in Sudan, they have been fighting ages and ages over the cattle, but this war, 2013, it never happened before. Even when we used to fight the North for the last 115 years, we didn't experience this kind of hurt and senseless, the way people have been dying. I know now a lot of people, some people mentioned here Nuer and Dinka, but this war, it was not between two tribes, Dinka and Nuer, because The Dinka people, they didn't accept this war. And as you know, in South Sudan, we have the Council of Jain Elders. They try their best to talk to young people, to young Dinka people especially, not to carry the gun and fight their brothers anywhere. Because there in the history, Nuer and Dinka, they are cousins. It's just over the cattle, each one moved away and they create their own family. But there is one thing people should understand. When we are in the process of reconciliation, okay, they said you don't have to mention the history or what happened before. But sometimes you have to go through that and then go slowly to the healing process. Now, as we speak here, in Warab State, we have 30,000 Nuer who live in that area. When they came with their families, the time they were fighting in Unity State, they were accepted there, they were received, they were fed, they give them something to eat, they give them clothes to wear. And until today, they are still there, and nobody touched them. Some of Nuer, they're saying that is Munde, who is helping Dinka, make them blind not to kill this people. But that is not true, because you know.
Limit your question, comrade.
So what mine is clarification. What I want to say is that some people, if they are Nuer who live in Dinka areas now, and they are living there with their families in peace, don't put in your mind that is Munde who helping them. It's that because we are trying to make peace between us. That is why they are accepting these families to stay in these only areas, and now they are staying there. If they decided to remain, they are welcome to stay. And this is what our President Salva Kiir Mayardit has been urging people not to put their hand in those people, to touch those families. So I think this is the beginning of how we start to make peace between us, and not go back and talk negative and go back to what happened. There are a lot of bad things happen, but we have to put God in our hearts and fill ourselves with the word of God and pray. And don't let yourself, to be blind by just following Riyamata or following your uncle, Salva Kiir, because he's my relative. No, we have to tell the truth and be clear. Thank you very much.
Take the gentleman with the hat. We will have time. Just bear with me.
So for question, right?
Question, please. No comment.
My name is Lino Awo. I'm from Minnesota here. Back home, I'm from Jonglei. Previously, I was from Jonglei. But right now, I don't know where I'm from. So, I'm actually from Anuak.
Okay.
Basically, we in America here, if we know that if there is any species that's in danger, the government will step up. No hunt, I'm going to kill people of Akobo. I believe all of you, we are South Sudanese, know there is no single Anuak that is roaming free in Akobo where they were found. What are you going to do? You were talking about peace, but Anuak, there is no single Anuak in Akobo now. 1 out of 1,000, maybe 100,000 before. Right now, what are you going to do? This question is going to every South Sudanese here. I don't believe in violence, but what are we going to do?
Thank you, comrade. I will limit. I've just been directed by my boss. Questions should be only 1 minute. I will take about 3 questions and then we answer them and then move on. I will take someone from that corner.
If your voice is loud, it's enough.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Lucina Shaw. I'm from Minnesota. My question is, I have like 3 or 4 questions. There's a little bit of a story. It's true story. When I was in Egypt, if you said that Nan Abu Masr, all people that will come and beat you up so good. Because you insulted their country and you cursed their country. Do we really love our country?
Yes.
Do we really are we really South Sudanese?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are here because of peace. So we need to talk about the peace. We need to bring peace. There's people there who really, they are poor. They are innocent. And they are the one who died. We here, you guys here, sitting down, mashallah, you know, your pocket is full of money, you're doing great, but there's some kid, there's some children, even they can't get piece of bread to eat. So we need to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will take this in right here.
My name is Alfred Laco. Just going right straight to the question. We are here as in a table of brotherhood. And my question goes to the panel. What do you bring for us today in this table of peace and reconciliation? What do you want to tell us? What do you have in your bag? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will allow the panels to answer the questions that have been raised. I think the first question was directed to Ambassador Gordon Buay.
Yes, the first question is the annual question in Kobo. Yes, the issue of ANYOC is something that started since 2005, and we cannot deny that the ANYOCs have been mistreated in Kobo. What happened is that when the war broke out in 1983, a lot of ANYOCs of Kobo ran away like anybody. So the places were settled by the Nuer. So when the peace was signed, then it was difficult for maybe we could say around, according to government statistics, 50% of the ANYOCs were not able to go back to their villages. So the ANYOC made a petition saying that they want to go back to their villages. Then the government, during the interim period, we were going through a lot of problems. First of all, in 2006, 2007, the government was busy disarming the Nuer White Army. So the question of ANYOC was not addressed. Then the king of ANYOC, the late king, Agada, also raised up this issue with President Kiir. The president told him that this issue would be addressed and we were working on it to solve it. The question of ANYOC villages is something very tricky. What I mean tricky is not because I'm denying the right of the ANYOCs. We know that those villages that were vacated by ANYOC after the war in the 1980s belong to the ANYOCs. But the question is, how do you remove those who resettle them without compensating? For instance, in a way that if you tell them that, okay, you have to vacate the ANYOC villages, then you have to settle them somewhere. And for you to do that, if you want to avoid going to war with the lone Nuer, you have to come up with some strategies, and the government seems like compensation or finding them a different land, whereby you will make it attractive to them that, okay, here is the package for you, leave these areas of ANYOC and then settle here, so that, you know, it's very tough because in 2006, 2007, we were very busy fighting, trying to disarm the lone Nuer. So if you come up with something which can explode into a war before the referendum, it could have been very dangerous for us to reach the referendum. So after we gained independence in 2011, the issue of ANYOC was on the table again to the office of the president, and the question was that, okay, yes, but for us to solve it in order to avoid war, government going to war with lone Nuer, then you must come up with a solution. So the solution was that you must find a package. And we did not find a package until we went to war in 2013. You see, we never got a space whereby the government would sit down to try to find a solution to this issue. One thing is that you have to solve a problem without creating another war. You see, because those who resettled there, they are well armed, And given our experience of dealing with the White Army, it is not easy thing for you to address it without coming with very creative ideas. I think my brother who asked the question, I think he would understand the position of the government. Yes, we recognize the issue that being displaced and they need to go back to their areas, because some of them went to the north and then they need to come back and go back to the areas. The government has not forgotten that. I think when the time is right, meaning that when the situation, the military situation is calm, we'll have to revisit the issue. But for time being, given the fact that the entire Akubu is under our brothers, the SPLM who will be coming to Juba, I think we need time to stabilize the situation before we raise very hot issues like that. So I will go to question number 2. Question number 2 is that what are you guys doing with the kids? Well, I think what we are doing with the kids in terms of this situation that we are facing as a government with the war, well, the kids are displaced. There are kids under the government control. We allow access for humanitarian so that the kids will not suffer. We as the government, we are doing our best to alleviate the suffering of our kids because of the war. I think we should understand that we are in a situation of war. And when you are in war, there is so much displacement. We have a lot of IDPs, and we have refugees in thousands in neighboring countries. So as a government, we allow access for humanitarian access to all the people of South Sudan who are displaced, those who are refugees. And in doing that, I think the kids would also be assisted. The question number 3 is that you, the panelists, what are you going to do? Well, I think it is the interest of all of us that we have peace in South Sudan, right? Because for us to have peace in South Sudan, then we should stop fighting. That means we should stop shooting ourselves. And this war was created by elites, that is political and military elites, people struggling or vying for power. And in the process of that, then they started shooting themselves, and then the innocent people suffer. So that was one of the reasons I was trying to explain that how do we resolve this conflict created by political and military elites, because it is a conflict created by power politics. And when you are trying to address conflict created by power politics, then you need to address it in the context of power politics. And the context of power politics is that you have to deal with these warlords. Like Peter Gadet, I think most of you, maybe some of our friends may not know who is Peter Gadet. He is a man with a long resume of shooting people. So you have to come up with a very creative ways of addressing his political, military needs so that he will stop shooting. So within the context of power politics. And one of the things I said is the South-South dialogue. South-South dialogue, like what was done in 2005, will bring us together, meaning the political actors, the political groups, the factions, the militia, whatever, so that they come and talk to try to share power. I believe that if Peter Gadet has no stake in the government, meaning that if he has no power within the government, let's say a ministerial post or a military position, he will not come, he will continue fighting. But if we reach some sort of arrangement, giving him something, telling him, my friend, you are deputy commander-in-chief, follow the position of Salva Kiir, I believe we put down his gun. So these are the things we need to address in South-South dialogue. South-South dialogue is not a dialogue about, oh, let's talk about cattle or all this. It is a power politics dialogue. People discussing positions, ranks, military ranks, who should own this. That's why I don't know how many ministries we'll have. Last time we reduced them to 21. Now with our agreement with our brothers in Iowa, we have to 30 ministries. So when we bring Peter Gadet, maybe we'll have 50 ministers to at least to buy peace. So I think that is the way I would answer. We need South-South dialogue to address these political and military realities of political actors and military actors who caused the war.
Thank you, Ambassador Buay. I will go to the far end with Sister Young.
Thank you very much. I will start with my sister there. You mentioned a very important point, that there are jail elders in South Sudan. And when you look at the constitution of South Sudan, there's nothing written there, jail elders. In the constitution. So it's very, very important, be it in the government, be it in the ILO, you have to look at issues which is bringing conflict among ourselves. These jail elders are advising the government very badly. They are not taking the government in the right way. And this J elders, is it inclusive? Is it inclusive? Is it inclusive? You ask yourself. And then make sure that you get an answer to it. We are all South Sudanese. And one of the issues, we always talk about democracy. We want to be part of the government. And there are so many things which has happened. And me personally, I don't want to touch it because I'm looking for peace. The other issue is about my brother from Anyuak. Nobody is going to talk about your history in Anyuak. You will not sit here in America and then you ask questions. If you ask me for you to tell you about Anyuak, what am I going to do with it? I don't know anything. But if you ask me where is Lanya County, how many people are there? Which one is the boundary? I make sure that I follow these things one by one. Because I don't want even anybody to come and enter for Juruland. This time I have to open my eyes. And you have to. You cannot ask us here and say that where do Anyuak belong to? You are an intellectual. You are supposed to follow these things. Go back, follow your history, and make sure what next. The other issue is about the kids. I've been in the front line in Pagak area. There are homeless kids there. There are children who are dying. Children are running after us. They want their mothers. They want their fathers. Who is responsible? I'm asking myself, I joined this movement to kill the mothers of these kids so that they come and run up and down like this. They are not in school. As a mother, what am I doing to these kids? I went with the clothes from Nairobi, flying to Addis Ababa, Gambela, then I drove up to the border, enter now Kagak. But I came there, I did not come with a pant. I came only with a jeremiah, Arianze, barefooted, because I could not know whom to help. How do I support the children there and their mothers, the pregnant women, what do we do for them? And this is something that, especially to my fellow women, what do we do so that we can help ourselves in that? If I want to go back, is there a dika who is going to give me a penny? Ambassador, are you going to help me so that when I go back to Pagak, I carry a biscuit or Malek to give to those children? This is the question that we are talking about, peace. Is it going to start at this time? What do you want us to tell you? I'm telling you about this book. This is the book of Desmond Tutu. And I want to leave this book, and I'm sure that maybe tomorrow some of you who are here will get this book. Margaret is coming, and I'm sure she will bring this book with her, so that you get a copy of this book. This organization, the organization of Margaret, gives this book free. You read this book with the experience of South Africa, and then you have to learn, how do I forgive? How do I forgive? Am I ready to be, or I'm ready to defend Riek Machar? I'm ready to defend Salva Kiir. I'm not for that. I'm here to say that let us forgive ourselves deep from our hearts. Then we become ambassadors of peace. This is what I want to tell you, Elisa. Thank you.
I don't think I'm going to go ahead and repeat some of the question that is answered by my colleagues. But I want to highlight a little bit about the kids. You can call it that we're desperate for peace. Some of you might have seen it that we are maybe hurried to go to Juba. No, the total Upper Niles, the generations, had a setback for the last 2 years. I would say because that generation will not gain back that 2 years. Out of senseless war we are talking about. So I think we're ready for peace. We wanted the peace for those young generations, that they are the future of tomorrow. And then anything that can block us not to go to Juba, I don't think it will be an issue. We'll be in Juba. And if we have to cook ourselves, we'll have to cook ourselves within the Juba. I realize that is our hometown. Some of us have realized that it was a mistake to run away. Because if we could have resisted and stayed there, somehow we could have found a way to say, Ajamana, we are finishing ourselves. But we are prolonging the war because some of us have run for their life. We are ready for a job. And those of you who really mean peace, join us there. Join us there and be there and try to protect the innocents. And we realize that it's a sensitive war. Other things here is, Jamana baby, we always say baby is not growing. This baby was born 4 years ago and it's still not growing. That baby is sick. But there is no reason a child would grow for the last 4 years not learning anything. And we always blame it to that baby. So when you look at it, there's an attitude of Southern Sudan. It's not that baby. The baby is growing well. So why do we blame it to the baby all the time? We're saying that the nation is baby. Even here in the United States, a 4-year baby will talk and will respond back. But half the baby is sick. We should turn it that way and turn it in a certain way that it makes sense. So the baby is not growing. It's being put in that level, but it's wrong. You should say the baby is sick or the policy is not working. And Ambassador is here from Washington, D.C. You know, in Ethiopia, during the new government, when they came in 1991, there was a policy adopted that those who come from the bush, Tigray, that they are abusing the other tribe because they hold the government. The government adopted a policy that their own people who are beating people at night are found beating people using the government power. They should be punished seriously. If the government would take that same initiative as we go to Juba, those who use wrong propaganda, threatening people from the government side publicly.
Excuse me, gentlemen from Iowa, that was not part of the question.
Okay.
Asking questions.
I'm just talking of resolutions. It's a part of the resolutions.
We will come back to that. I just asked everybody to answer questions on that.
Thank you. I'm just saying that as a solution, as something I've learned before. Anyway, I'm not going further to that one. There is something I wanted to say here. When you have heard of Commander-in-Chief Dr. Riek Machar touring the United States, he told us to embrace the peace.
Again, I will interrupt and I will move the mic to Santino Deng. I think it will save your time.
Thank you.
You're going to answer the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Justin. I think the first question was asked by Lino. It is about the issue of Ayuam. I think it's exhausted. A lot of people talk, and I will add my voice too. The issue cannot be solved unless people have to engage in dialogue. We need to talk about it. Ambassador Gordon mentioned it, that government is really busy. But there are things that we can do as a community, as people. You see, we can start talking ourselves, addressing these issues until government will get us somewhere else. So I'm sure that thing will be done. Something a lot of people don't understand. There are a lot of communities within South Sudan who have the issue of border on the land. Because since we got independent and the displacement that happened during the war, a lot of people didn't return to their places. And there are some tribes who are occupying some other tribes. People are not just making a lot of noise, but there are a lot of issues going on there, all over South Sudan. I will really love our country and the kids, Lucina. Yes, we love our country. And we will make all what we can to protect our country. We are sure for that. The issue of kids actually, which is again the unfortunate situation that we are in, that make our kids to become suffer again. Alfred asked us, what did you bring to us today as a panelist? As a member of the SPLM or a part of the panelists, we bring to you that we need to start dialogue. From now onward, we need to engage ourselves. So the dialogue is a basic line that we will resolve our problem. And we will know ourselves more when we talk to each other. We need to accept ourselves. We need to tolerate ourselves. All these are the things we need to do. What is way forward? Way forward is dialogue, no way out. We cannot avoid ourselves, we need to talk. And we need to be sincere, we need to be honest when we are talking. And you can hear from people's voice. When we talk about that, we need to do peace and do peace. Whoever will talk here, you will hear from the voice there is something hindering our peace process. We always have tension, we have a concept. The issue of tribes, the issue of Dinka. Dinka now become an ideology for some of people. And instead of focusing about the country, people are focusing about Dinka all the time. Like Honorable Chi was mentioning about GAC, Young Elders. Is it a part of the constitution of the SPLM? This is a community organization. Why do we need to be in the constitution of the SPLM of the country? I don't think so. There are communities in Equatoria, a lot of organizations in Equatoria. These are community-based organizations. There are a lot of organizations in Upper Nile. They are there. There is Nuer, there is Anyuak, there is everybody but an organization. Why do we need, is it a responsibility of a jury to question Nuer Young Elders organization? I don't think so. I'm sure 100% we are not supporting war. 80% of Dinka, they don't support war, except those who are in the government. These are the people fighting. And there is evidence there. There are a lot of evidence that we need to talk about the peace. When we talk about peace, we don't need to focus on these negative things. That will not make us go forward. Thank you.
Gentleman from Bego.
The children should go to school, that's where they belong. And that is my response to what should we do to the children. Because the war, if the peace is stayed, then the children should go to school. And I know that there's a lot of children in Southern Sudan that are studying under the tree. But it's much better than not studying at all. All of us who grow up there knows that you only deal with the sun when the sun disappears. There's nothing you can do. And wait until the sun rises again in the morning. So those are the challenges that we have to go through and figure out exactly whether the development will come someday. In terms of what we brought, activism, citizenship requires you to be active. It's not something that you can relax and assume that somebody else is going to perform your role. It doesn't work that way. When people talk of sovereignty, the word sovereignty refers to the people, not to the land. You can have an empty land, you cannot call that land a sovereign land. It's the individual who are sovereign. And if you need reference to that, you can go to Hobbes and Thomas Hobbes, who wrote the Leviathan. And in Leviathan, when they created what is called the government, it refers to the individual who give up their sovereign powers so that this entity will function to protect everybody. And so sovereignty refers to the individual. You as a citizen has a responsibility to check your government, because if you don't, the government will be out of control and it will enforce itself upon you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we will learn from our ex always running late. And with that, I will apologize for anybody that did not take questions. My time is exhausted myself, and I have only 6 or 7 minutes to close this session.
Actually, I have none.
It is Mike Shearer who said that though hand is divided into 5 fingers, all 5 must work for the benefit of the whole body. With that, I will ask the panel to give me 1 minute only, please, on your closing remark. How can we work together to bring peace and save our country? We'll start from the corner. I'll start from the last end. Nyaka.
I think as an African woman, I believe in forgiveness and continuation of dialogue among ourselves. And I put forward that it's a process that we have to continue, especially face-to-face dialogue. Face-to-face dialogue is very important. Face-to-face peace process is very important. Traditional peace process is very important. And even the last one is a Christian peace process. This one, if we continue like that, among ourselves as South Sudanese, we will bring peace to us as South Sudanese. Thank you.
On my behalf and on behalf of the SPLM state of Minnesota, I wanted to say that we embrace the peace that passed. Commander-in-Chief Dr. Rick Chad told us to stop the ancient war, to embrace this peace, and approach your brothers. It's not the first time we have conflict. We have done it before. So let's go forward and save our nation. And let's get on it. Thank you. Something I haven't let you know, some of you are here, I participate in an organization that I've seen today here. That organizations are very helpful, and I'm happy to see them again here. The Pilgrim organizations, if there's anyone here, can you guys step please? The Pilgrim organizations are based organizations who have already started doing reconciliation and healing for our people. They already went to Juba. They have started here in the United States. Please work with them, try to know them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Timothy. Actually, I will add my voice for this group, Jill Anderson. She's done a lot of good stuff for us. I was one of the first group who have a retreat after December 13th. And then it was very tough for us to come and meet again. And the war was almost 3 months years old. And we managed through her leadership and Arthur. Thank you, Arthur. God bless you. And we'll give you more years to serve us. What I want to say in the conclusion, we need 1 megawatt situation was always one way avoid ourselves not talking to each other. That is the only problem. I have my 2 leaders that are people of peace. I have President here. Nobody will question his intention about the peace. And I have Labeja. You guys know him. He's a man of peace. And he always talks about peace. And therefore, I don't think somebody will question me that I'm not for peace. If I have these 2 leaders. What we need to do is we need to talk. Our life should not be based on politics as a citizens. We have a lot that we can talk about rather than talking about politics. And from now onward, there was a pledge from Ladoguba. He said during these 2 years, he will make sure that he engage all South Sudanese. We have to talk to each other again. Thank
being individual rather than an institution. If we have strong institutions in Southern Sudan, the events of 2013 would have not happened. But because we invested on the individual, and that's why one person can bring the country down, because the institutions are not there to be able to withstand any personality. The rule of law is the basis of any civilized society, and we have to invest in the rule of law. Today, if your term ended, just walk away, give the next person a chance, because nobody has a monopoly over any ideas. Each person has a contribution to make to any society to make it better. And if we acknowledge that, ensuring that the next person is as capable as the person sitting next to me, then we are on the path to be able to build a society that is inclusive for everybody. Thank you.
What I want to say is that our government has taken steps to build trust between us and our brothers in IO and the former detainees. I think you might have heard 2 days ago our Minister of Information and Telecommunication made it very clear and instructed all the media houses in Juba, including SSTV, to stop the propaganda against the SPLM-IO. Then we now taken steps to consider them as our partners for peace. They are no longer rebels, meaning that even the IO members in the diaspora our brothers in the IO in the diaspora should also change the tone, because now we are preparing to receive 300 advanced team of SPLM-IO in Juba. To assure my brother from the IO who said that people are being killed in Juba, that is not true. That's why we agreed that the SPLM-IO will have 1,410 soldiers in Juba as a guarantee for the security if they don't believe in our police or in our army. This is another way of trust building, because the army that they will take to Juba will protect their own, the members of SPLM-IO until the complete trust is built. Second, that there are also UN forces in Juba, and there will be the people also, the UN police, the UN forces will be the one roaming the streets and also taking care of security with our police, and with the joint police of 1,500 that will come from the IO. I think in that case, IO will have 1,500 police force in Juba, plus 1,410 soldiers. That would be close to 3,000, plus the UN forces. I don't think that somebody will be killed in Juba, because there are, as you know, there are hundreds or even thousands of UN forces in Juba. Even we appreciate our partners, our brothers. The American government will also provide some US Marines that will also accompany the operations in Juba as a way of trust building. The UN will also provide US Marines. So with all those guarantees, I don't think somebody will be killed if you have US Marines, and we agreed as a government that let the American Marines take them to Juba as a way to show to you that we have no intention to kill you. So this is the way we build trust between us and our brothers. The American Marine will take them to Juba, and if they want to give them protection, we agree even up to 1,000 UN special forces can be in Juba, so that our brothers will understand that we have no intention to kill anybody. Thank you very much.
With that, I will conclude the session, and please let us give a hand. Thank you.